All right, here's my super basic code finder tutorial. Um, so I'm assuming that you have Code Finder Millennium Edition and that you've installed it and that you know how to start it. So that's the basics. The first thing you need to do when you're going to try and find the code is first decide what books you're going to be in. Um, you only need to do this the first time, and then after that, you can just go to import search results and it will open the book for you. So the first time you search a code, if you go to open, you'll have the various books. Uh, if you don't know what to pick Tanakh. That's the whole Old Testament. You might not have all these like Peshitta and stuff. Those are other books that you can buy that you can load into Code Finder, but you might not have all those other books. If you know that, or if you're looking for a code in the Torah, then you would pick Torah as the books you want to search. So the first 5 books of the Bible. In this case, I'm going to start with the Tanakh. So I'll open that. And then the search term that I was led to look for, and I usually wait for some kind of inspiration from the Ruach HaKodesh to search a term, is I see with new eyes. So in this case, I'm going to put that into Google. I see with new eyes, and then select Hebrew. So there's different ways to find a term. So that is an awfully long access term. Um, so maybe I'll go to just something like actually see with new eyes. Let's see if that, and maybe just new eyes. So that might be something. Now, the other thing too is you have to know the font that Google uses to be able to translate this into something that you can type in the code finder. And the main thing about the way that Google does it is that they're going to use the final letters, which I'm pretty good at the alphabet, but I, you know, don't think that much about the final forms of the letters. Um, if you have Code Finder, you also have this keyboard reference that comes with Code Finder, and so it'll show you the various things. So, um, for instance, yeah, I said it has a memsofit here, which is what this is. That's memsofit. Um, so anyway, we can come back to this. So in this case, this term, I'll just sort of leave this over here and stretch Code Finder so I can see the term. And you would open up the virtual keyboard here to enter this term. And so I'm going to start with, so you start from the right to the left. This is ayin, yod, noon, yod, and you're not going to do a closed mem, you're just going to do mem. And then I believe this is het, dalet, shin, wa. So this is the final wa versus the normal wa. I just always use normal wa, and then tav. So now we have that in Code Finder. And what I'll do is just for fun. So in Code Finder, I will make the font bigger so you can see things a little better. So you can see the term, and you can see if I click, so if I have a mouse and I right click, it'll switch it to English. Now I don't have anything because I typed that term in. So I put it back to Hebrew. If I double click this, I can put in new eyes, and that's what this term means, okay? So now when I right click, it'll show me new eyes. Now I don't have any table yet because I haven't searched anything yet. I would need another term. The other way to find a term is to use the interlinear scripture analyzer. So this is what it looks like, the interlinear scripture analyzer. And I was going to use the term eyes to see. And that is, if I just take a screenshot of it, is this eyes. It's this part here. This is eyes to see. They see to see. Yeah, so this next part, and not see, is this part, yet do not see. So this eyes to see here is just the part that I did a screenshot of. So let me grab that screenshot real quick. I'm going to go to it. I'm going to pause this and grab that screenshot just a second. This screenshot here for eyes to see, and I'm going to put that into CodeFinder as well. So this is going to be now another term. And I'm just going to go again from the right to the left with the Hebrew. And this is ayin, yod, nun, yod, and it's closed mem, and then lamed, hey, another closed mem, and then lamed, resh, aleph, yod. Oh, not sorry, that's wav, not yod, and then tet, tav. Ugh. I'm thinking the right character, I just say the wrong one. And then we hit enter, and that will give us another term. So we see it again in Hebrew. Doesn't matter which time I double click it, and I'll say eyes to see. Okay. And then the other one I wanted to find was Shabbat, which, you know, I probably should know how to spell it, but I'm just going to search the interlinear for Sabbath. And so here we go. Shabbat, right? So especially sometimes when there are many spellings for a word, it's best to go into the interlinear and grab it. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Shabbat of holiness. So, you know, Shabbat Kodesh, so that I make it a longer term. So I'm just going to push this over here so I can see it. And then enter that term. So shin, bait, tav, kuf, dalet, shin. And that's Shabbat Kodesh. Okay, now that we have three terms, we can just search. Now, the other thing to know about search is you have to set some settings. I sort of give it a pretty big skip range. And you should go into settings, give the maximum match count something like 40 to 50 million. This can make your machine spin for a while, but that's what I do. So at least you can see what my settings are here. I like to have let search wrap go on there. I won't explain it. The tips that Doug and I did has that explanation, so there's more than just this video, and I'll try and dig that one up too. So once you've got those settings set, the other thing I like to do is make sure that ignore skips of one. Sometimes will make it go faster. I also like to have the closest matrix filter on so that it will automatically sort of eliminate duplicates, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. I like to set row splitting to auto, and then just hit search. And then what we'll get is it will go through the words. I'm going to sort of put this up here. So it found some matches. It did not find this term new eyes that we got from Google. It did find eyes to see, and it found one table, And so when we look at that table, I'm going to close the virtual keyboard now. Where is it? So there's the term eyes to see. So this is probably in the same place we found it in the interlinear, because this is the plain text citing. So we got those characters right. But it didn't find any other terms. So what this means, if there was a parentheses 1 here, then it means it would have found a table with this and that term in it. But it didn't. It didn't, because they don't appear in a table. So that's sort of not great. So the other thing you can do is you can change which term to use as the access term. So I'm going to go to Shabbat Kodesh up here, and I'm going to say move to the top of the list. And what that does is it makes Shabbat Kodesh the access term. And now if I research, you're going to see this occurs a lot. So you've got actually 400 tables. Now when we use Shabbat Kodesh as the access term, it did find a table that has one of these other terms in it. So if we open it up, you'll see, oh no, it found, it found 2 occurrences of Shabbat Kodesh in the same table. So if I reduce the font back so you can see the table, you'll see this is the table that has, if you look at the report, so if you go up to view report, then it'll show you which term is which, just, right, 2 occurrences of Shabbat Kodesh in the same table. First one in Amos, second one in Genesis. So in this case, it found a table of those 2 terms, and the second table is also the same. It's got Shabbat Kodesh in there twice, and it looks like this. All right, so now what I'm going to do, just for this is a good practice, is to save the table. The way you do that is by saying export search results. Shabbat Kodesh plus new eyes. And people have various different formats for the file names, but I'm just going to sort of save the easiest one. Now, this is sort of, if you start then being led by the Spirit or thinking about what terms you might want to put in here that relate to this, you can type them in just like I showed, and then you'll see if they appear in the table or not. So for instance, if they don't appear in the table, you'll see something like this, 0, 0. If it doesn't appear in the books at all, you'll see 0, 0. If it appears in a table, when you open the table, it will show you the terms. Right? You'll see a folder for each term and how many times it's in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how, if you then, for instance, the other thing you can do besides exporting the search results is export the search list. If I do that, then this is going to be, again, Shabbat Kodesh, and let's say eyes to see. Doesn't matter, it's just arbitrary. This way I could load these into another table in the future. So for instance, if I just want to I'm going to, for illustration purposes, load a bunch of terms and search it just to see what comes up. So if I now import some search, so if you import search results, that's basically opening this file in the future. So in the future, when you, in fact, let's, I don't want to exit CodeFinder, but this is the way that you would get back to this point, is you would import the search results that you exported, and that would open up the book and then load the search that you did. So the way that you access this data file is not to open it, but rather to import search results. Just remember that. The other thing is that you can, if you're in a table like this, you can take a search list you exported from another session, and if you don't replace the existing list, then it'll just add it to the end of your current search terms. So I'll say no, which will append it. So then the question is, which one do I want? So what I'll do is I'll take this House of Israel one that has a bunch of terms in it. I'll open that. You'll see there's a whole bunch. So Shabbat is going to appear with some of these terms somewhere. So if I now load all these terms in here, right? If I switch them to the Hebrew, you'll see them all in the Hebrew. Switch them back to English. Let's search. It's going to take a little while longer because there's a bunch of them. And now you'll see that you actually get a table with a whole bunch of terms in it. So it's searching each individual word, and then it'll store the results, and then it'll sort the results. And it has to go through each of the terms. Done yet? Not yet. All right, it got done searching the terms, and now it's matching results to figure out which terms are in which tables. This can take some time if you have, I don't know how many terms do we have? More than a dozen. You know, and as you start to really exercise this program and get 30, 40 search terms, it can take some time. And the tips video that Doug and I did talk about how you then, once you get proficient at this, speed up the searches and sort of limit the search areas and the skip ranges and all of that sort of more advanced stuff to so that you're not sitting around waiting for the program as much. So I'll pause the video again, and once the result matching is done, I'll start it up. All right, so now the result searching is done. So now if we go back to, so I'll just close all these up. If I go back to the access term and I open it up, you'll see there's a table here that has an 8 next to it and then another 8, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. So this is a table where the skip is negative 149 that has 8 of the terms in it. If I open the book, you'll see these are the 8 terms. These are how many times each term occurs. And so, for instance, because I turned on the matrix filter, when I go to 11, why didn't it filter it? All right, should filter it. I think when I open it, it'll do the filtering. Okay, so now it filtered it. So you'll see that of the 83 terms, 11, this little hand says it's hidden, so you don't see it. You only see the one with this skip because this term is the closest proximity to the access term. All right, so that's how the matrix filtering works. So if I go back to the table, this is what the table looks like. I'll make this as big as I can because I'm sort of cutting my screen off so you can see it. So this is the table. And if I make the font smaller, then it'll shrink the table and you can see it. But I won't get into any of all that stuff right now. So if I go back to look at the report, you'll see these are the terms that show up. These are the skips. It's all in the book of Ezekiel, so that's cool. I find that the statistics are all over the map and they don't usually make any sense. Like I think if you went back and just loaded Torah.cod and ran this again, it would change the statistics. Because the book you're searching it is smaller, so don't sort of get into any of that. But anyway, that's how you use CodeFinder, and that's how you can find your first table. So, a good thing to do if you just want to find a table, and I know Jonathan encourages this, is just try and spell your name in Hebrew, and then put in personal details about yourself. And it's always fun to confirm that you're in the codes. So that's what I would encourage you to do if you're just getting started. All right, thanks.